All right, we're gonna go ahead and officially call the meeting to order at 5:40. We'll go ahead and with our roll call.
Kimberly James,
Present.
Avery Wilson,
Here.
Elliot Lawrence,
Here.
Jasmine Julio.
All righty, so we have some items on our agenda that we're going to ask to be removed. Item number 5, the distribution of the iPads and the distribution and training. We don't need that. And we may shift some other things around that's on the agenda because we have another meeting going on. So is there a motion that we approve the agenda with the removal of item 5?
So moved.
All right. All right, second by Mr. Motion by Mr. Wilson, second by Ms. Julio, all in favor? Aye. All right, so the first item is the approval of the April 10th minutes. And if you all are inclined, I will take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Avery, second by Mr. Lawrence, all in favor?
I'm gonna refrain.
Okay. Well, okay, gotcha. Oh, well, so that means he wants us to go in the executive session? Cause we. It doesn't need to be in the executive, okay, okay, all right.
Madam Chair, I'm refraining from the minutes as I wasn't present on the.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion by Mr. Lawrence and a second by, who made the second? Dr. Patrick made the second? Oh, Avery. Oh, moved by Mr. Wilson, Mr., what's your name? Wilson. And second by Mr. Lawrence, okay. And then there is a abstention, Miss Julio. All else in favor, say aye. Aye, all right. Thank you. And so as a part of the agenda, we do have the economic update. And so with that, we have a grapevine update from our city manager. So we'll go ahead and ask him to take the floor.
Greetings, members of the board. My apologies, we're in the midst of budget season. And so I come before you tonight to discuss a project that I showed in a previous board meeting, and that project was the renovations of the Rite Aid facility right here on Forest Parkway. When we talk about urban redevelopment agencies and their powers, we recognize that one of the reasons that they were created statutorily was to eliminate blight and distressed properties around the city. As all of you have seen, we've done an amazing job thus far of trying to clean up the space. Thus far, we've done the paving of the parking lot. We've done the exterior, ensuring that all of the paint was consistent. And I'm proud to state that 100% of that work was funded by a CDBG grant, of which we still have funds remaining totaling close to $600,000. And when you talk about grants at work for the community, that is just a perfect example of how we use federal dollars to ensure that we are doing tangible projects, quality of life projects in this community. In Forest Park, as each of you sit here as residents, you recognize the fact that we have a food desert around here. If you want access to quality food, you have to go other places because the only thing you can get here for the most part is fast food, and it's not good on our bodies. And all across the world, people attribute those type of eateries to distressed communities. And so in an effort to fix that for the city of Forest Park, we came up with this notion of the Grapevine, which features a 3-restaurant food terminal, 3 flex space offices, a large conference room, as well as a It's called a ghost kitchen, but so that individuals who are cooking their foods at home and selling them, which is illegal, now have a place to become legal in this commissary kitchen concept that we're building out. Not only does it have those 3 restaurants inside, well, terminals for restaurants and the 3 flex offices, it also will feature a drive-through bar. I'm sorry, a drive-through coffee shop. It's been a day. It will feature a drive-through coffee shop as well as a bakery. We're looking for this facility that's located right here in our downtown center that we're calling our epicenter to really become the happening spot around Forest Park. It will be next door to where we've already launched Elevate, as well as it will sit beside that 100 square city center facility that we're in the final phase of value engineering, as well as all of the renovations at Star Park. Star Park bid should be on the street sometime within the next 60 days because we're done with that as well. We humbly ask that this board consider allowing us to leverage those funds for a portion of this project. Again, to our CFO's point, we have close to $600,000 remaining in CDBG funds, and the project total cost is $2.8 million. I think it's 2.8 plus. It's under 2.9, but we're asking this board to consider partnering with us so that we can get that project underway ASAP, so that once and for all, we have gainful access to food, gainful access to somewhere to go, especially with the event space that will function similar to like a gathering spot where we have different speakers on various topics, just something to really begin activating Forest Parkway so that it's not just a civic place where you see government buildings and after 5 o'clock, there's really nothing here but traffic going through and out of the community, not spending their dollars. So that is my humble request, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I do recognize that in order for this body to leverage their funds, we would have to look at the boundaries of the URA, post it, and do the amendment to include said area to our plan. And my thing would be, we already know that a portion of Star Park is within the URA boundaries. Let's just extend it to encompass that entire area as we work to clean it all up. And the beauty of this is that most of the times you hear governmental officials talk about plans and ideas. 100% of the construction plans are already approved. The project has already been bid, and we're just waiting to let the project until we've secured the remaining funding. And we just ask for a grand total, recognizing that we're still going to apply for any applicable grants to the project. And again, I'm free to answer any questions you may have.
I'll start with the questions, Mr. Clark. In that project, do you all have someone that is ready to lease, ready to go? Are you all gainfully looking at people that's going to occupy that space, or do you already have people that's going to occupy that space?
Excellent question. So we do have individuals that are interested. Again, the initial concept was for it to incubate businesses. So those individuals that had culinary skill sets that could not afford the brick and mortar cost to open up a startup business, we wanted to use this as an opportunity to incubate them. So it would serve as an official incubator, because there's been talk around the county for over a decade relative to an incubator, but it's just never happened. We have had general conversations with some popular businesses or restaurants that would be looking at expanding into this market based upon what's happening in the Tri-City areas, but we're always open for that journey. Our thing is, once we let the project and construction begins, it becomes more of a real conversation because they see literally our boots are on the ground.
Any questions from the board?
Go first.
Yeah. Do we have any details about this on paper yet, or
When you say details on paper,
about amounts? What the details about not a loan, but about what we're gonna do?
absolutely.
Finance.
Would you get our procurement manager, please, Mr. Wiggins? Our procurement manager is here. So this project has been successfully bidded. We work with our general architects to formulate all of the bid documents based upon the design that we showed this body. I wasn't going to move this project until all of you saw it. But since that time, yes, we know the exact cost.
So the bidding part is done, all that part is done.
I'm sorry.
All the bidding part, that part is done.
Everything
Okay.
has been done. Our procurement manager, just so that you can get comfortable with it, I would prefer her on record to talk about that bidding process and her efforts there. How many people it went out, the solicitation went out to, as well as the end result of that procurement.
And can you speak more to enlarging the URA's part of the city center? Can you speak more to that, what that involves?
Absolutely. If should the URA approve this request, first we would have to amend the boundaries of the URA because you are technically not supposed to expend your funds on areas that are not within your delineated boundaries. Secondarily, and most importantly, the URA will be a partner of this project. So it wouldn't just be a city property, a city project. The URA would be heavily involved. And certain components of this project, more than likely, based upon the allowances of URA, I would run under URA. And we could even talk about, what does that look like in terms of rent so that you start to recoup some of that money and receive some of the proceeds from what happens in that facility. Again, those details would come further down the road as we begin to negotiate based upon square footage, based upon the end users that we're looking to occupy these spaces, what would be a fair amount to charge them for the space. And then we could talk about a pro rata share of that cost.
Okay, those are details I'm talking about.
You want to know if you were going to make some money from us?
No, not really.
That's my question. So you stated that the 2.8 plus you all have a remaining amount of 600,000. How originally did you all? There's no money being provided by the URA.
We never had a plan. What we knew was we had an amazing vision that somebody would bite on. In the early phases, we said, well, perhaps we take this building to a white box and then allow someone else from the outside to come in and run the facility. But then we said, why would we do that when we're more than capable of keeping it in-house? That way we have some form of control as to what happens in the space. I've seen too many times of instances happening like that, and the intended purpose based upon the ownership changing, it just doesn't work. I'm gonna have our procurement manager here who can speak to that total amount. Is it 2.8? This is our procurement manager, Ms. Talisa Clark. Ms. Clark, if you will, walk them through the process for bidding, all of that.
Good evening. Great. So this project was put out on the street, publicly advertised back, let me find that. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right, we released the project on December the 20th. Because it's a construction project, we do have to advertise by state law for a minimum of 30 days. So it was advertised in the local Oregon Clayton News, as well as posted on the Georgia Procurement Registry. And then we also posted on our website through our OpenGov e-solicitation platform. So it stayed out on the street for the minimum of the 30 days. And we had a mandatory pre-proposal meeting on January the 7th, where we had, I believe, about 9 vendors that came out for the mandatory pre-bid. The pre-bid was held here, and then we went over to the Rite Aid building to have them go inside and view the facility and take pictures, measurements, things of that nature, and ask any questions that they had about the solicitation that was put out, as well as what they seen visually at the site visit. After the mandatory pre-bid, we do offer a week time for them to turn in any questions, because no verbal question is authoritative. They have to submit it in writing so that we can do a formal response publicly, again, posting to the public. So that was January the 21st. We did receive some questions, and we did get those submitted and answered in a timely fashion prior to the bid opening date, which was February the 4th. The bids opened publicly on February the 4th at 2 o'clock. And we ended up having 3 bids come in on time. And we posted the bid tabulation, and I will tell you those numbers here. So we received a bid from Diversified Construction of Georgia at $3,746,251. The second bidder was J.R. Bowman Construction at $4,624,836. And Technique Concrete Construction bid was $2,888,183. All 3 bidders went through the evaluation process. Were with our formal request for bids, we look at lowest cost, we look at responsive bid submission, meaning that they provided everything that we requested and required to be returned back with the bid submission. And then we look at responsiveness of the bidder, their number of years that they've been in business. They have to provide 5 similar type, size, and amounts of projects that they've done previously for other municipalities. We do send those out and complete the reference checks for those. And we look to make sure that they are valid with the Secretary of State's office, with their business, that we also include that they have to confirm that they have not been debarred or anything of that nature. So we do an extensive evaluation of the bids in order to come to the lowest responsive and responsible recommendation of award. And that's where we are right now.
When we wind up spending this money, it's going to be completed with these restaurants, the drive-through, offices, all the other stuff that Mr. Clark mentioned is going to be totally finished?
Yes.
Or this is not just an exterior?
No, this is the interior
The
to get
total.
to get the incubator building to get ready for us to be able to bring businesses inside.
And I think this question may go to Mr. Clark, is who actually is going to be calling the shots about who goes in there? Because obviously we've got a couple of different interests here. Is there somebody that's going to say, hey, this person can be a good coffee shop manager, and this might be a good look, and so forth? Who's
Mr. Elliott, so there would still be an administrative person working inside the facility because it'll be open every day. Someone serving as a host, a little bit higher title to manage everything that's happening in the facility. And so,
that's not you?
no, sir, I think I have enough right now. But there will be an entity working, more than likely a staff person working to make certain that everything goes well. Similar to when you go in Clark City Market, there's a receptionist, for lack of a better term, sitting at the front of the facility.
Who currently owns the building?
We do.
The city owns the
Mhm.
building, but the only investment so far has been through grants, no physical investment by
Out-
the city.
Outside of the acquisition costs, I believe we paid 1.3 or $1.2 million for the facility because it was just blighted and sitting there vacant. I believe the last time it was used was perhaps during COVID for some type of a blood plasma facility. But outside of that, it's just vacant. You know, and we believe this is only the first step. The next step is we believe this facility should have a rooftop. But of course, in business, we don't want to expend the money to elevate that roof now until we start seeing how that money is going to come back to us. First, making back our investment, and then 2, making whole those partners that have helped us get it open.
Just based on the questions that my counterparts have had here, it seems our concern, and I don't want to speak for anyone else, is there's a lot of money coming out from the URA, but we're not sure how much control we will have over the process. And so I think what would be important or IGA with the URA and the city so we can ensure that if we decide to go this route, we have a full understanding of what the expectations are of control that, or what say we have. I think, yeah.
Absolutely. And I would say, again, we can work on that. I do believe that the partners would be the city and the URA. First, the city has already made the initial investment to acquire the space. And then once we look at those costs, I'm not opposed to a cost share for all of the leases that come inside the building, all of the money that is made on the building, a cost share of that comes back to the URA. And I think it's fair anywhere from 30 to 40%.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only problem is if unfortunately, as you said, business plans sometimes fail, and that could be a loss to the URA because there would be nothing that we would recoup if it was to fail. The city could sell the building, recoup something, where the URA would have nothing. You know, if we're just looking at cost sharing on rentals and it's not being rented, then the URA doesn't recoup anything. So that's kind of where my concern is, and I would like to hear from others.
I think you come to a pivotal point to where your worry has to go away because this is something that we all want. Individuals talk about economic development, they talk about quality of life. This, in my opinion, is not just bricks and mortar. Essentially, the Grapevine in its inception represents a strategic response to years of stagnation in this community. What drives a development, yes, there are pros and cons to every business aspect, but as a local government, especially recognizing the economics that's happening around us with the growth that's happening in the Tri-City area, we're next door. I don't believe that fear should be the guiding force to keep us away from doing it, because sometimes, especially with economic development, you have to put that fear aside, still recognizing the business decisions and make it happen. This project and its completion is a bold declaration that we will no longer allow blight in this community, and that if the constituents that are represented by this governing body talks about spaces of wellness, it talks about creativity, it talks about community, this development in its truest form signals to developers, families, and investors that Forest Park is growing with intentionality. And so while I recognize that there is a risk. I took a $9 million risk in a previous community, and the return on that investment has been lasting. All because instead of looking at the sheets, we said this is something that we're going to do, and it's still a benefactor today. Again, I do believe that there should be some form of an agreement by and between the city and the URA that speaks to the course of that cost-sharing opportunity, but I don't want the cost to be our downfall from getting this project off the ground.
Is this a sharing between DA, DDA, and URA?
No, sir. This is only an endeavor of the city and the URA. The city owns the building. And that's how we're able to use those CDBG funds to fund it.
I think my thought on this whole project is I'm not solely concerned about the amount, but this is a known good business model. I've seen them all around Atlanta, Clark Street, different places, and the businesses there have thrived. I don't have a problem with that. It's just giving us something to look over and come to an agreement with. I think we should do it. That's just me, because we got to start somewhere.
And that's fair.
My concern is not fear
Absolutely.
whatsoever. You know, that's what we're here for. We're here to look at blighted property. We're here to help with the redevelopment. However, we have to be good stewards of public funds, which I know you are 100% aware of. And while there are some types of protections for the city as being a owner of the building, if this money just was to come up and we were solely relying on cost share, it could potentially be a loss for the URA. So we just are looking for protections for ourselves. So I think even though cost sharing of the rent and the leases may be one part of it, I think we're also looking at another strategy to try to recoup some of the money or have some type of protection for us if it didn't work out, especially if we're not going to have any say of who goes in the building, if we're not going to have any of that control. So we're just trying to have some type of authority on another side. I think that's kind of where, and we can iron those things out. I just, it's a lot of money that it's going to be put into a big project. And if we're going to invest, we want to make sure that we're a part of, we have a seat at the table and not just saying, here's my money and you go ahead and do what you want with it.
The other thing that I'll say with regards to that is recognizing if the city council members stated that they wanted to be at the table for every business that went in that building and the URA did, that only slows down the process of getting individuals in there. I do think that we can work with our legal counsel to come up with a IGA or some type of legal documentation that speaks to the notion that we are partnering on this in some way. And we can do that. I don't want to go too long because when does the contract expire? June 4. That means, of course, that we have to go back out through the entirety of the project. So if we can work on those documents with legal counsel, the beauty of this partnership is the city employees still work on behalf of the URA. So we would do nothing to come in between that relationship.
Well, thanks for the information, Mr. Clark. We're gonna, we do have, Mr. Ed on the, line, also our financial advisor that will be able to give you all a little bit more history and background as to things that we need to do with our funds and what we can do. I'll just say that I do believe that this is an amazing project. I don't know if you all have seen the renderings of Grapevine, but it's a space that is needed. So if we could maybe show the renderings, maybe not at this meeting, but.
Oh, we have them ready for you.
Oh, do you? Okay. Show the renderings of the Grapevine and what it will look like. Okay, but we don't have it on the board now. We don't, do we or not? I'm sorry. Yes.
I have a question for Ms. Matt. The extension of the URA borders to include this, would that be considered a shaky legal venture in terms of who?
Here you go. This is a Grapevine.
And city council, I'll let y'all.
So what you're looking at now, this is the live space for events. This is just general seating for those individuals. Of course, we wanted to place some art inside the facility. This is the bar for those individuals that choose to imbibe. And you can see the restaurants and the flex spaces here for individuals wanting to work. Again, smaller areas for working inside the coffee shop with a drive-through. Just to speak to the history of the facility, this is a large conference room that can also be leased. And this is that commissary kitchen for individuals just coming in to cook their wares. Of course, all of that will have to be scheduled. And this is just a general overview of the inside, the interior. There will be limited work on the outside because we've used federal dollars to pay for all of that. All of the what are they called? The columns have been changed because they were not structurally sound. We've already done that.
So, to answer your question, so it is considered blighted. It's abandoned property and dilapidated. And this project would fix that. So that aligns with the URA's purpose. And if you so choose to participate in, we would draft a resolution for the mayor and city council to adopt to expand the redevelopment area. Because they're the only ones that can actually set the area. So.
Okay, so at that point, thank you, Mr. Clark. Appreciate you.
Are you done with us?
Yes, I think we're done. We'll go with Mr. Ed Walls, our financial advisor. Mr. Walls, I had asked, are you there, Mr. Walls? You're muted if you're talking. Mr. Ed, are you there? Okay. Oops. Mr. Wall, are you there? I told him to mute his phone and I think he did, and now he's not, now he's not unmuted.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yep,
we
we
got
got
you
you.
now. Okay, so I don't know if you were able to hear any of that, but Mr.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, so he proposed the information about the grapevine. I had asked you to be here on with the meeting with us just as our financial advisor, you know, because we got a lot of money now. We want to make sure that we're being good stewards of it. And so I'm gonna let you have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening, board members. I apologize for not being there in person. You all were created, you know, for urban renewal. So the projects that you do with your public purpose is to improve the city. And so any project that would fit that definition that would sort of improve the urban area that we call it, which is any area inside your limits, and I just heard Daniel talking to you about it, fits with what you can do. And so you are blessed with good cash balances and good finances. And one of the things I wanted y'all to think about is figure out how to leverage that where you are using that money to help a private entity, a public-private partnership, multiply it. So like, give you an example, when you buy a house, you have to come up with 15 or 20% down and then you borrow the rest. So your cash equity can be that equity, and you can multiply it many times by having somebody borrow money against it or you borrow money against it. And so there's a way for you to take that money and not be limited to just what's in the bank balance. And so the chair and I have talked about various different projects, and it has a rent roll, and we look and see what the rent roll would support. And that rent roll, you know, when you borrow money, you come up with so much as a down payment and then so much to borrow. When you think about projects, think about it as a business plan, and maybe you're the banker and you multiply that amount of money that you have. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So it sounds like your recommendation more or less is to loan the money and allow them to utilize the lease payment to then pay it back? Is that what I'm understanding?
So because Georgia law is so squirrely, you don't have the power to loan money, but you would own a project. Let's say it's a shopping center that's got a rent roll to it. You would own it and do the financing based on the rent roll, and you would lease it out to somebody to operate it with an option to buy. And so you don't have the power to loan cash money to developers, but you can think of it that same way where you got to thread the state law into how you go about doing projects when you don't have the power to loan money. Does that make sense?
So let me ask you, Mr. Wall, on specifically the Grapevine project that Mr. Clark had presented to the board regarding getting that project up and going and on the way. I know that the city council is on the verge of approving the bidder. It's like 2.8, I'll just say 2.9 million to actually get that project completely done as far as renovating it. And so Mr. Clark came to the board to petition us to partner with him to fund that project in some way. They have, I think, about $600,000 in what was that fund money called? CBD. Yeah, that thing. They have about $600,000 of that, and then they have to figure out the rest of the funds. What would your advice be to the board?
So, I mean, that's a great project that fits right with what I was talking about. You're leveraging your money. So the CDBG may need matching money to go with it. And so you're leveraging it. So it ain't all your money. You're using your money to leverage other money. So to me, that fits right in the wheelhouse of how you multiply what you have in the bank.
So how will we multiply the funds? Because they have the 600,000. That's what they have already as far as their grant funds. The remaining money is what they would need from the URA. So how would we leverage the remaining money to go to them?
And they own the building. We don't own the building to use that as a leverage either.
Right. Well, but you said the city owns it?
Yes.
So in that case, I mean, you all are like in the same boat with the city. So I look at y'all as the same way. A lot of the CDBG grants require matching money to go with it. And so whether the city owns it or you own it, it shouldn't make any difference to you so long as the money that you're providing is multiplied by getting money from some other source. And the CBDG counts for that. And so you have to, again, under state law, enter into an intergovernmental contract with the city. Any money that you give to the city, you're giving it to them in exchange for something else. And so you would, whatever that project is, it'd have to be inside your territory, and then you would say what service the city was providing in exchange for you giving that cash money.
So currently, he is advising that there would be cost sharing with the lease payments, so it would be leased out. But the city, besides the initial investment of the 1.1 million of purchasing the vacant property, the other monies that have come in were CBDG grant money. And they still have a hold of that. It's not accessible to the URA. And they're asking for an additional 2.8. So aside from rent roll, which, it could close down and we wouldn't get any of that back, what other means could we attempt to try to double our money, as you're saying, or get some of that money back?
So in the example you gave, I mean, a project, from the question, the way you're asking, I mean, it's like you view yourself as somebody different than the city, and y'all don't need to commingle money. If the city's getting the rent roll and you're helping facilitate that, you should be okay with that, because your job is to try to help the city and you do the projects, whether it's you doing them or they doing it. But if you wanted some of the rent roll to come to you, you could look at dividing it, however much money the city's putting up, how much you're putting up, y'all split the rent roll pro rata.
I understand what you're saying. We're looking at it as if we're two different entities, but really we are the same entity, working for the same goal ultimately. So whatever we do as a board, whether we do it for the city or we have our own project that we're doing, we're still in the same window umbrella. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions you all have? Okay. All right. Is there anything else you would like to say to the board, Mr. Wall?
Great job. A lot of time and effort since 2014 has gone into building that cash balance you have. And so, treat the money like it's yours, and only spend it on something you think is really, really worthwhile.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. All right. Take care. All right. So as a part of the economic development update, we do have PSE here. Yeah. The 650. Okay. Okay. Yes, I did. Skipped all over that. Yes. Okay. All right. So who's going to discuss that? You?
Yes. Okay. So this is an easement request. We have a representative from the law firm over here. You probably recognize him. He's been here before for a different easement, for that fence easement, previously. And this is a water line easement. Technically, we would be granting it to CCWA, but it's necessary to serve one of the existing buildings that's already there. So if you accept, then there would just be a motion to approve. And you have the easements in your packet. There's also a drawing. Yes.
Thank you for being here. You want to say anything? But I think it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, okay. Okay, so, you all, we have, the easement for 650, building 650 waterline easement. Is there a motion to approve this item?
No move.
Mr. Wilson, is there a second? Dr. Patrick, seconded. All in, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Did you say aye? Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate you, sir. All right, oh, the discussion of the, thank you, the discussion of the, association dues.
Oh, that would be Mr. Clark.
Okay,
We'll
we'll
skip that.
skip that and we'll go to the economic
Yep,
development.
and I'm
piece.
gonna make this real quick. So we have had an incredibly busy month, as you have heard already. Hang on, getting through my piles of stuff. All right, so to Mr. Clark's point, specifically talking about Grapevine, we have had a tremendous amount of interest from our small and local business community, particularly a couple of restaurants, a couple of coffee places that are very, very interested in moving forward in this space. But we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. So until we get a little bit further down the road, can't really have those deep substantive conversations and sign here and give a date. But I am confident that we will very quickly be able to lease out that space. We are meeting with the Georgia Department of Economic Development next week. They're coming to Forest Park, so we're going to do our little dog and pony show and do the full tour of Forest Park. We have also deepened our relationship with them and working through a couple of state projects that we're also additionally hoping that can land here in Forest Park or in the immediate area. Continuing to work our relationship with the farmers market and the Georgia Produce Association. They invited me. I went to the meeting back in, I guess that was March, as a first time attendee. And I think in probably 10 years since somebody had been to the farmers market on the behalf of the city. They invited me to, apparently I did something right. So they invited me to come back in April to be their guest speaker for their lunch. And then apparently I did something even better right, because now I have a standing agenda item on, on their quarterly luncheon, which is great because it goes a long way in deepening and building those relationships between the farmers market, which is a state entity, but they sit here in Forest Park. So I'm very, very excited about that. And as I get more updates on the renovations and the stormwater and just all the stuff that they're doing there, I will most definitely bring that back to you. 200 Metcalf, the catch basin that has been crushed repeatedly, it has finally been repaired. We are done, yay. And I think the invoice has been submitted for processing. We also hosted last week, I think that was last week, the Clayton County Brokers Reception here, and Ms. James was in attendance here at 696 Main Street in partnership with Aerotropolis. It was the very first time that Forest Park has hosted that event here. It was absolutely a hit, aside from the fact that our air conditioning went out earlier in the day. But it was a wonderful event. They are also, they being in the Aerotropolis, are hosting their Clayton County Economic Development Bus Tour, which will be the middle of May 20 something. I'll send you the details on it. But again, they're coming to Forest Park. So the pickup will be out here at City Hall. Mr. Clark and I will hop on the bus and do our little song and dance routine as they depart and tour the rest of Clayton County. We also partnered with the Clayton County Office of Economic Development on their recent bus tour and met them out at Fort Gillum and was able, or sorry, Gillum Logistics Center, and was able to give them a full update on all things going on in Forest Park. I'm not going to steal the thunder of PSC, but we do have an opportunity to tour, and we will send out a doodle poll to you to figure out a date. We have 2 developments that we want you to look at as we figure out next steps for the URA and some of the things that we're going to talk about in executive session. But Ion at College Park is one, and then the other is the Affinity at Stone Mountain. And so, again, look for a poll that will be coming hopefully in the next day or so that we can figure out. Hope Friday, maybe a Friday and Saturday, that we can do a tour so you can see those in real time as we go back and figure out, particularly the expansion of our boundaries, particularly as we talk about how we address blight and what that looks like for the URA. TSW was here at our last meeting. They have provided to us some very, very high-level conceptual plans of Site A, which was the site that we selected to move forward with as our priority. I will send those over to you. What I'm waiting for, and I don't want to present it here because what I'm waiting for from them is a more formalized presentation, because I feel like if I give you these site concept plans right now, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. Detailed context. So as soon as I have that, I will send that full packet over to you, and we will look to have them come in and do a deeper presentation around their plan at the June meeting. Road repairs and turnover at Fort Gillem. We are meeting with Mr. Clark, Alton Matthews, our public works director, as well as Talisa Adams, who's our procurement manager, as we start that process around the road repair, particularly for flankers and Metcalf. A couple of things, other things that are going on that's very exciting. So 850 Main Street, which is a building that is owned by the Development Authority, of redevelopment. If you haven't driven by and look at it, stop and wave at it, because it's just looking beautiful. We've got some panels that we're waiting on that my last update was that they're stuck on a cargo ship somewhere in the middle of the ocean. Don't know when they're going to come in, but I will say that the redevelopment inside and outside of that building is probably about 80% complete. The parking lot has been restriped. The dentist is staying. They have a new lease with them. We have 5 spaces available for lease in that building, 2 upstairs, 3 downstairs, as well as a coffee/cafe shop. And had a fantastic conversation with a coffee person that's very interested in that space. So we're very excited about that. And even more so that the name for the building is going to be renamed to Restoration on Main. So look for more details coming about that. Also, the 760, 770 Main Street lots are inching ever closer to being redeveloped. Those 2 lots are owned by the Development Authority. We have countered originally what was presented by our Presswick Development was a $200,000 offer. We played hardball and we won and renegotiated. They had also taken out all the clawbacks, and we're like, that's not going to work. So we were able to renegotiate that contract for $300,000 with all of the clawback provisions put back in. They have cleared the first hurdle. They have gone to the Planning Commission and have gotten their variances approved, I think all but one. And then last Monday, just a couple of days ago, have gotten their conditional use permit approved by mayor and council. So moving ever closer to that development, which will be a 60-unit mixed-use development. So apartments style on top with a mix of retail on the bottom. And it also will encompass the lot that is the old Kiwanis building as well. So really more or less the entire block between, which street is that? Miss James, help me. Lake, yeah. Lake and,
It's not Jonesboro.
I don't remember what street that is.
on Main
Anyway, it's on Main Street, right across from the park, across from Bill Lee. So we're very, very excited about that. And then finally, the sale, we have a purchase sale agreement that I'm waiting on to be countersigned for the purchase of the lot that sits on the other corner of Main Street across from Lake. It sits right now at the corner next to the Georgia Utility Contractors Association building. And so we're inching ever closer to that's being done. We've negotiated a very generous offer for less than an acre lot, and they're looking to use that as an expansion to their existing building. And the townhome lot, I know y'all are tired of us talking about the townhome lot. It's coming, I promise you it is. They have are coming back to us again. So they had gotten their land disturbance permit. So I was excited that I was going to finally be able to use my shovels and my hard hats that have been sitting in my office for a while. But they have made a couple of tweaks to their plan, which has required them to come back for another round of approval. So they're almost at that point. And then we think probably within the next 30, 60 days, they will have their land disturbance permit and will in earnest start turning dirt, and hopefully we'll have some sticks coming up soon. And I think that is, oh, and we also had our first film here in 2025 that was filmed at the Forest Park Jail. They wrapped filming last week. And as soon as they release and go into post-production and all that stuff, I will share information about the film and where you can see it. And we're very excited about that. And I think that is all that I have. I know it's a lot. Y'all know I always have a long list of stuff. But I think that is everything. And then also 4879 West Street, which is right behind us, the blue garage building there on West Street, was previously owned by the Downtown Development Authority. It has been sold. We have closed on the deal, and it is going to be an auto brokerage. So, no, there will not be any cars there, but really a kind of an auto finder, auto brokerage, and real estate office. So we're excited about the redevelopment. If you drive past, you can see the work that he is already starting on the building. So it will change the look and feel of that entire corner. And just nice to have some additional life coming back into the city. So are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question, regarding Project Splash. I know we closed on Project Splash. Are we still under NDA? Because I want to try to publicize the.
Right. So I'm gonna defer to Attorney Patrick Hardy if we are still under the NDA or not.
They haven't formally released the provisions of the NDA yet. I do think that they have published something, but I would not speak about it until, yeah. I think, let's talk tomorrow, once I look, and I'll reach out to them to see if it's okay if we release something.
Yes, sir.
Microphone, we have a city here. Years ago, there was discussion about having some farmers market products brought here in Forest Park to sell to get our food desert fixed. In your discussions there, either with wholesalers or the farmers, is that something we're trying to get into the grapevine?
We haven't talked about it, but I definitely think that is something that we should explore. So the one thing that I learned in my initial meeting out there with them was that they are, in addition to all the renovations that they're doing at the farmers market, they're also making a transition of the market, which I'm not 100% sure what it means, but they're turning it into what they're terming an agricultural terminal. So it's like, okay, but so right now what that means, and my understanding and kind of conversations with some of the vendors out there, like Jammin' Designs, the pottery place that's been there for 20 something years, basically everybody that's on the back row has, I think June is their deadline to relocate. So Jammin' Designs has now unfortunately moved over to Hapeville because they've lost their lease. So, but also in the conversation with the leadership over the farmers market is that they're leaning more into this agricultural terminal, but they can't really explain or could not explain in a way that made sense to me exactly what that means. But their comment in a roundabout way was, well, we only want things that support true agriculture. And I'm like, well, they sell. But you know, so I'm like, so does it mean that, or is it just food? Because yes, I understand. I'm gonna pick on Jammin' Designs for a minute, that they sell pottery, but they also sell plants, which is agriculture. So I think it is something. My long way of answering, yes, I would love to see what that looks like, but I think in talking to the producers that are out there, they have lots of questions as well because they're a little kind of, I don't really know what this means and what these changes truly mean for their respective business. But I do think in at least the relationships that I've started out there that they're very receptive to Forest Park and partnering with us in a different way. And I think that there could be an opportunity even as a pop-up shop. One of the things that we had talked about, we have yoga next Saturday morning, on May 17th, Saturday morning at the fountain, is could we have a pop-up market, that we sell some flowers and some fruit and produce, et cetera, et cetera. And so a couple of them were we're very interested in doing that. But I would love to see, once things settle a little bit more with them for the producers, if there is an opportunity that there could be a market stall, if you will, at Grapevine, or even at in one of the cafe spaces over at Restoration on Main. Yeah. Any other questions?
Katie, so I think they're using our executive,
They are. So we're going to
Order room.
be in here. And I do want to
so we can kind of close things down while we do. Okay, so
Correct.
before we go into executive session, then you have something else, Missy? Okay.
But it's really for executive session. So go ahead.
Okay, so, because our economic director, or our, not economic director, our finance director is in his budget hearing meeting, we do have a copy of the, financial report here. So if we want to kind of peruse through, if you all see any questions or have any questions, on it.
Kudos,
see,
moving that money in the
yeah.
general fund more.
See, we have the checking account, we have the Kroger checking account, we have the beginning balance, ending balance about the same. You see, we have our operating expenses, all of that is pretty much the same as before. And then, of course, he has the breakdown of all of the revenues and the cash. So let's just look at the bank statements here. We did a lot of checks,
Yeah.
a lot of checks. Let's see what we got here. So I'm assuming that remote deposit for that $4,519 is that the um has that been consistent? Is that the one from the park? It's the first bank statement.
Page 2, 1 or 2.
At the bottom, you see the first. Yes. Okay. So I'll make sure I'll ask him. But I want to say that's the same consistently from the park. Miss Dennis, can you remind me what Tunnel
Spanker.
Spanker and Associates? Oh, that's TSW. Okay. Okay. That's the one that's giving us the renderings, or looking at that. Bruce Penn? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
I know, that's what I said. I was like,
Y'all
thank
talking about
you
woo,
for
woo.
putting it in there early.
The Georgia Fund won the
Mhm.
earnings reinvestment,
Mhm.
reinvested $57,823. Woo, woo.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
So, well, that's one that, so we have the we have the URA Army account, but also the URA bond account. Did you see that one?
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, but you see how much that's a lot. That's good.
And then actually, one of the.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow, we are so smart. Man, we are smart. All right, do you all have?
Budgeted 150,000.
Right. So smart, so smart. Okay, do you all have any questions or comments about anything that you see? Is there anything that sticks out to you that you have a question about? All righty. All right,
Oh,
so,
look, there's the 4,000. It's the lease income. 4,500.
oh, it's on there?
Income.
Okay, where is that on?
This is the same where the 1.2 she was talking about.
Oh, okay, let's go back.
Yeah, on the second sheet. Flip that one. I can't see which way you got it. No.
No, it's back here, I think, wait. There you go, there you go. Two. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it.
There it is, right there, the lease income.
Okay. Yeah, least income, yeah. Right here. Right here, your fingers over.
Remember, she was saying that deposit of the $4,519?
Yeah.
That's there.
One that they just started paying us. One that they just started paying us. Got that. Okay, do we need to, that's all we need, right? That's all we have for the regular meeting. We will, table the URA reimbursement. Well, actually, I'll just talk a little bit about it. Mr. Clark spoke to me about it. So it's the item number 4 on the agenda. So when they went through and, went through all their balances, finance went and got everything settled or what have you, they found not only did the property owners owe additional 100,000 for the 2 officers that we sent over there, but we also had an outstanding invoice that we didn't pay. So he just wanted it to come before the board so that we understood that's when we see a check going out to POA, that's what it is, because we don't pay them anymore, but it's something that we owe them from the past. So,
How much was that?
do you know the amount?
That I don't have offhand, but I can get you the
Okay.
exact total. and
Okay.
stuff.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion to, go into, how, I forgot.
Regular.
Yeah, exit
Thank you.
in the regular meeting and go into executive session for purposes of real estate. For purposes of real estate, personnel, and litigation. Mm, Got that?
Mhm.
Ms. Julio and Mr. Lawrence, yeah, Mr. Lawrence, all in favor? Aye.
Okay, so hang on.
So I need to
So-
turn this off, right?
Yeah, you technically don't have to make motion to exit, but motion to resume. Oh, okay. And then, yeah, but so.
Motion was resumed, by Mr. Y'all are second by Dr. Patty. All in favor? All right, so we're back. I don't know if you're recording yet. Okay, good. Okay, so, we got some work to do, you all. I'm excited. So do you want to make your announcement or you want to wait?
If you gonna put me on the
Ah! No, I'll,
It's okay.
well, we won't do it on the record. We'll close out of the meeting and then you can, so. All right, so we're gonna to officially adjourn. No, we're done. So is the recording?